Just a few days before its reveal, Ford Philippines allowed us some time with the next generation all-new Ford Ranger. And I'm glad that they did for two very good reasons. Number one is that it's gorgeous, and number two is that now we know exactly what it is that we're going to get in the Philippines. This right here is it. This is the top of the line, so we know what it is that we're going to get. Do we get the big screen inside? Do we get the 10-speed automatic? Do we get all the bells and whistles that we've been seeing all over the internet and all over in other countries? We're going to answer those questions here today, along with telling you some of the features that I actually love about the all-new next generation Ranger. So I'm going to take you through, obviously, the exterior, the interior, the engine, and, well, the back too, because you'd be surprised. There are a lot of cool and interesting things out back. Work, play, family. Now, these are the three key words that Ford was working around when they were talking about and designing the all-new Ford Ranger, whilst also talking to like 5,000 pickup truck owners and trying to hone down what it is that they want to get for the all-new Ranger. Now, work and play, yeah, you understand in a pickup truck that's synonymous. It goes hand in hand with one another. But family? You'd be surprised. Wait until we get to some of the features inside that will, well, cater to the family. So let's start at the front clip, and then we'll make our way into the back and then eventually inside the automobile. So up front, very, very familiar, is it not? Yes, because it looks quite similar to that of the Everest, which we just did a walk around of back in Bangkok, or rather in Thailand, not Bangkok, but Thailand. And if you haven't seen that review or walk around, I'm sure that the links are somewhere up here or in the description down below. But as you can tell, it's very familiar, right? Not only because it looks like the Everest, but it also looks like North America's #1 selling pickup truck, the F-150. You've got massive lights, a large grille, and great ground clearance. To go in depth, okay, so the grille has got a lot of holes in it, so a lot of cool air can start rushing inside and cool the engine as best as possible. Just in front of that, you'll find a camera, one of 4 cameras for a 360-degree view. And then below that, this pad right here, this is where the radar sits. So this is for your cruise control and your adaptive cruise. Then under that, you've got a skid plate and, of course, an air dam found below, and 2 tow hooks found out there. On the sides, you've got your C-shaped DRLs, which has been very, very popular inside Ford's SUV cars. You see it, like I said, on the F-150, you saw it on the Everest, and now, obviously, you see it on the Ranger. And then you've got your LED lights, which are matrix LED lights, and like the Everest, they don't just sit there and look pretty. They're like googly eyes. They tilt up to about 15 degrees so that it's smart in a way so that when you're going in a dark road and there's a car coming at you, your lights are on, but then they automatically dim when a car is coming. And at the same time, when you turn, these lights turn also with you to give you sort of like a small little angle to show you where you're headed, up to a maximum of 15 degrees. And then down below, you've got your fog lamps. You could have helped a little bit, Jack. Underneath, you've got 2 engine options for the local Ranger. You've got a 2-liter bi-turbo and a single-turbo diesel engine, mated to a 10-speed automatic transmission or a 6-speed automatic transmission, depending on the variants. Now, the 2-liter bi-turbo produces 207 horses and 500 Newton-meters of torque, while the single turbo, which is available on the 4x2 Wildtrak and below, produces about 167 horses and 405 Newton-meters of torque. Still a lot of power to play around with. Now, I must tell you that only the 4x4 Wildtrak comes with a 10-speed automatic transmission. Everybody else underneath that gets a 6-speed automatic transmission or a manual transmission, depending obviously on the models that you get. I am not sure, however, if the V6 engine option will arrive in the Philippines. I'm kind of hoping it does, and if it doesn't come into the Ranger, at least into the Raptor, that might actually be a lot of fun. Down the side, let's start at the top, roof rails. These guys are not just a garnish. They actually work for a living by carrying up to 350 kilograms of weight. These guys are workhorses, much like the car itself. Workhorses too are these cameras that are found on either side as part of the 360-degree camera view. You've got one up front, one on each side mirror, and of course one at the rear. Above that, you've got your repeaters on the side mirror. Down the side, there is one cut, and oddly enough, it looks like a knife. There's this cut here that looks like, it does look like a right side up knife. And then of course, you've got your step board found down here. What I like about the Ranger, and this is not to jump inside or anything at all, the interior, it's just, I love the fact that there is a step board and grab handles at the same time. So if you need to get inside the automobile, it's very, very easy, especially for the vertically challenged like myself. Ground clearance is still obviously very awesome. It's a pickup truck. It's the same as the previous generation. And the wading depth is still 800 millimeters. Lest I forget to mention also the wheels. These are blacked out 18 inches of goodness with like a diamond shaped here every so often. I like that. And not just a pair up front, but a pair of disc brakes at the rear too. Very, very awesome stopping power. And then there's the one thing on the side, believe it or not, that I find really, really cool. And it is this step right here. You know how jungle gyms allow kids to like climb all over them? They can slide, they can climb and have just a really great time. Well, that's what this pickup truck is sort of like trying to express. It can be used, not abused, but it can be used properly. And you can climb all over it. You've got the step boards there and then a step here. And this step is so useful because if you need to get stuff at the back, check it out. You can easily get to it. No more of stepping on the tires and perhaps slipping and getting your feet dirty and whatnot. No, this step. It's so simple, but I just absolutely love it. I think it's a really, really great feature. Now, let's move on to the rear. Now, as we come around to the rear, and I say around to the rear because I'm talking about this portion right here. This tail lamp is actually a pretty cool configuration because it reminds me of like Tetris. It's massive, it's kind of odd shape, but in the sense that it fits so perfectly and it feels so good once that oddly shaped block pops right in. I think that's why I like it so much. And also to note that you've got the blind spot radars right here at the corner of the car. Now this is here for, well, more than just one reason. One is obviously so that the blind spot monitors of the car work if there's a car coming at you. But they're here also because they get to measure exactly how long it is, whatever it is that you're towing on the pickup truck, which you can set in the infotainment system. So what I'm getting at is if you're towing something much longer, which the car obviously can, the blind spot monitor will measure that so it can tell you when you can change lanes safely without cutting anybody off. Great feature right there. Now moving on to the rest of the rear, you've got your third lamp here. Of course, your Wild Track and 4x4 badging. Another cut found at the back that mimics that on the side. It looks like a knife yet again. And of course, Ranger stamped all across. And lest I forget, the final camera, the fourth camera, the fourth of the 360-degree view is just below the massive Ford insignia. When you open her up, and the tailgate is assisted somewhat thanks to a torsion beam. It's not as light as the Ranger, or rather, sorry, it's not as light as the Raptor. That's maybe about 3 to 4 pounds lighter, it feels like, but it's still fairly easy for someone like me. Open her up, and there are provisions here for some clamps. You can put one there and one there. The bed now, they've made it a little bit bigger, a little bit wider, in the sense that you can fit a pallet in here without any issue. So obviously they would have made it a lot wider as well. And then there's the fact also that you can fit X number of balikbayan boxes. Why am I saying X? Let's do that right now. It'll even fit a standard 2x4. Oh, shucks. This is a standard 2x4? Where'd you get this from? The Fee-Fi Faux cabinet? Why is it so big? Don't say it, Jack. How are we? You know, I have an idea. Yes! I feel like an Old Spice commercial. Look at your husband, then look at me, then look at your dog. I'm the same as your dog, but I smell better. Ah, look at me now, we're by the water, I'm in a truck. You've ever seen those things? So the bed of the Ranger incorporates family, incorporates work, and incorporates play. And it's made even obviously more accessible thanks to the step found on the side. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering, the payload capacity is just under 1,000 kilos. Another cool feature here in the back is that you've got sockets found here, and they're covered really well too. This one is a 12-volt socket, 180 watts, and this one is 400 watts. So if you need to charge, let's say for example, your laptop, or even let's say a couple of lights to help you while you're camping, it's possible to do so here. Lights, I mentioned light, that's actually a pretty cool thing, because the Ranger has this really cool feature that it's got lights all over the vehicle. So it's really helpful when you're getting out of the car and you don't want to step on, let's say for example, like a puddle of water, or when you're camping, like poop, ugh, heaven forbid. So that is actually a very nice feature. Then of course there are tie-down points that you will find on the bed. There's 4 of them actually right now, but obviously you can put more, because if I'm sure you've noticed that there are holes on the side of the pickup truck, so you can add more accessories to either compartmentalize the rear or put a cover and whatnot. And I'm sure if you can't get that at a Ford dealer, then this is the Philippines, so the aftermarket service here is redonkulous, and that's very easy. That actually does it for the rear. Let's check out the cabin itself and see if that term family really does apply inside. Family will have an easy time hopping into the vehicle thanks to the stepboard and the grab rails. The seats are cushioned very well. This is not real leather, but it's clean leather in the sense that you slide in quite easily. There's a lot of leg room there. There's a lot of headroom there. A lot of space in the sense of bottle holders and cup holders. These cup holders here are medium sized. You can tell this is quite a large bottle, but it doesn't fit. But a large bottle fits on the doors itself. Then you've got air vents found in the center, and the cool thing is that these guys actually mimic the front grille, and it's not just here in the back. You can find these are mimicked all over, and all the grills actually inside the car. Then you've got a Type-C charging point, Type A USB, and then another 400-watt AC plug right there. That's pretty cool. Then there's even more storage space in the sense that if you lift this chair, bam, check it out. Look at that. That's a large bottle that fits right there quite easily. You can put even a birthday cake underneath there. Your tools obviously will found down here. And then I asked myself, why would there be a reason that you need to put the backrest down? And then Jack and I came to the realization that what if you were transporting something that needed to be flat, like completely flat? And look at it. That's exactly what it is. It's flat. And if you need to transport anything that might be a bit greasy, dirty, crummy or whatnot, then you can easily put it down here so that you don't dirty the seats up front, which are at an angle, by the way. Huh? That's just smart. Cubby holes and storage space continues to the front of the vehicle because there are 2 cup holders found right here that are again normal size. If I can find, where did I put my bottle? I forgot my bottle in the back, sorry about that. See, even large bottle holders, or rather large bottles, can fit in there. And then on the door, it can fit even Jack's very large bottle and still fit the plastic bottle. That's redonkulous. And then cool too is the fact that there are extra cup holders inside this automobile in the sense that it's right here. You push a button and bam, it pops out. Ah, that's pretty nifty right there. And then even more storage space, like I was saying, because here down below, you've got wireless charger. You've got a cubby hole here in the center. And then here up front, you've got a glove box right here. And then more storage space up front. This is probably big enough to hold a tissue box. Now, for the driver, you've got your buttons on your steering wheel, well wrapped steering wheel at that, a good weight too. It's telescopic, power seats enable you to get into the perfect driving position. The instrument cluster is an all digital affair. It is an 8-inch digital cluster or digital instrument cluster. And then the cool thing is that the temperature and the fuel gauges are sort of like bars, and these bars kind of, well, it somewhat mimics the headlamps up front and the taillights at the back. It's got sort of like a sharp line to it. Like if it would continue, it might look like an actual C. Now, obviously, the biggest changes inside the cabin of the Ranger will fall here in the center. Let me just get the bottle out of the way. The first thing, before we get to the really big thing, is the drive modes. Inside the 4x4s, there are 6 types of drive modes. Inside the 4x2s, there are 4 types of drive modes. And it's super easy because all you got to do is swivel this back and forth, and then it comes out in the instrument cluster. Then you move to the pièce de résistance, the massive 12-inch infotainment screen. Now, for the 4x4, or rather for the Wild Tracks, okay, you get a 12-inch screen. Everybody else gets a 10-inch screen. But if you think about it, they're not really dejado, because 10-inch screen, that's basically like an iPad. It's still quite large. And I gotta tell you, it's actually very, very easy to use, and at the same time, it's smart in the sense that it uses its space very well. Now, when you get into an automobile, the first thing that you want to be able to do very, very quickly is turn on the air or turn on the radio, right? So there are physical buttons for it right here, and that's easy enough to get to. But the screen itself, this is where it controls almost all the entire vehicle, right? That the vehicle settings and whatnot. It's even got the user manual of the automobile inside that. It's a large screen that uses the screen very well, as I mentioned, because when you decide to use either Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which are both wireless, by the way, and I love the fact that it's got now Android that is wireless. It makes use of the screen very well in the sense that you can still have your maps on part of the screen, and then the vehicle functions found just below that, and then even after that, you've got controls to your air. So it makes really, really good use of the space. And then at the same time, you've got everything and anything that you need in there if you're a 4x4 car. Like, you've got your off-road functions in there, some trip meters and whatnot. You can check the vehicle status, by the way, and this is obviously, it's got Sync 4 and it can connect to your mobile phone via an app. So it's a wonderful piece of technology. You won't get lost in using it. It may have a learning curve. Sure, everything really does, especially technology nowadays, but it's not to a point where you'll get dissuaded by it and not want to use it ever. No, it's easy to use, it's welcoming, and once you really do get used to it, you'll find that the great thing about it is that you'll find that when you're inside this car using it, you might actually think, how did I ever get on without it? Because truthfully, inside this car, when you're connected wirelessly, then your phone becomes a thing of the past. You just stick. Did I crack my phone? God, I hope not. But this thing, hopefully, it replaces you having to look at your phone at all, and it makes driving so much better. With a wider track and a longer wheelbase for better stability, powerful yet fuel-efficient engines, 6 easily selectable drive modes, a 360-degree camera on a 12-inch screen with Apple and Android connectivity, oh, and both wireless, mind you, this next-gen Ranger is tough, smart, and versatile, the perfect partner for work, play, and family. And now at this time, we would normally go for a drive and give you our first impressions on what the car feels like on the road. Unfortunately, I hate to say this, but we don't have that kind of time. We actually have to return the vehicle quite quickly. We actually kind of somewhat stole it. Okay, not stole it, but borrowed it very, very quickly from where we had to. They tried to stop us and tell us that the car was still on transport mode, but we didn't listen, and so we just left anyway. So we will save our impressions or our driving impressions from when we actually get the unit for a proper review. So I hope you do like and subscribe our channel so that you don't miss out on it. And finally, I've got some good news and some great news. The good news is that the all-new next generation Ford Ranger starts at just 1,200,000 Philippine pesos. In fact, less than 1,200,000 Philippine pesos. And then the top of the line is at 1,875,000 Philippine pesos. Now that's the good news. The great news is that starting today, the Ranger is now available nationwide. Head on over to AutoDeal.com.ph to find the dealer that's closest to you to get yourself into one of these.